The 4-2-3-1 is a formation that is often overlooked in FIFA 21 because it's not the 5 at the back meta that everyone insists on playing time after time after time. I'm here to tell you today that this is one of, if not the best formations that you can run, even during Ultimate Team of the Season. Let's get into it. Right guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are new, make sure you smash the subscribe button and leave a thumbs up on the video. It really helps the channel. We are getting closer to 500 subscribers, so thank you all so much for the support. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So, getting into the custom tactics of the 4-2-3-1 formation that a lot of people are going to doubt, but I'm telling you right now, this is one of the best formations that I have played. I played this a lot in the latter part of Foot Champs games to try and get me back into games, and it's successfully done so nearly every single time that I've done it. It's only messed up a couple of times, and it was more down to user error. So, as you can see, just getting straight into it, defensive and offensive style both set to balance. 4-2-3-1 is one of the more traditional formations, as it kind of models a more 4-3-3 with a little bit more of a cautious approach because you do have less advanced wingers / outside midfielders. So we want to keep this as traditional and as balanced as possible. I noticed that with any kind of defensive style, it dragged players out of position, and one of the things that the 4-2-3-1 is great for is keeping players in position. Your two defensive midfielders, your center attacking mid, you've got that little mini triangle in the midfield. As you guys know who regularly watch the channel, I do love the triangles in my offensive and defensive sets because it, for me, is just one of the most effective ways that I've found to play FIFA, I guess. So I like to have the balanced defensive style. We don't want to press too much. This formation kind of lends itself to be one that traps a lot of players as soon as they go down the wing. If they're trying to play out of the back with their fullbacks, it lends itself to be a formation that will just naturally trap because you've got your outside cam or your winger set on the sideline, and your striker that can close them in coming from the goal area, and your center attacking mid that can close that direction of the pitch. So we don't want to set we want to set this to balance. If you guys are getting down late in the game, you can just switch it on to team press in game. Or use the R1 to call second defender. That has been the most effective way to play this formation for me personally. With defensively, we want it to be fairly narrow because with most formations in Foot Champs, most opponents in Foot Champs, people do play down the middle of the pitch. They don't really like to whip in crosses, just from my personal experience. We want this to be 3. When we get into the instructions, it'll make it a bit more clear. Depth, this is all dependent on your fullbacks and center backs, or fullbacks, depending on if you play center backs or not. I'm one of the rare few that do play center backs. So I choose to have around 5 depth. The higher you can press this, the better. But I don't want to get too over ambitious with it. So I stick to 5 depth. For me, that's comfortable. I don't tend to get caught out too much, but I also do have pacey players in my back line. Offensive style balance. This is a tactic that a lot of people don't seem to use with formations like this. They always seem to use the fast build-up because it allows your outside midfielders, your striker, to make runs and dart off each other and give your cam options. But for me, I feel like that if you use that, they run a little bit too fast and you have to be very, very quick. And it only works for like the really, really high tier players, the elite players, your pros, your top 200 finishers. So I'm not any of those things. So I want a formation that's going to work for me in the vast majority. I would say 99% of people that play FIFA. So we're going to use the balanced formation, or the balanced offensive style. We're going to go with 6 width on this. We do want to use the wide areas of the pitch because we do have the outside midfielders. I don't know if they're midfielders or wingers, depending on which variation of the formation you play. We do have those players on the pitch for a reason. We want to create space because we do have 2 defensive midfielders and a center attacking mid. We want to create space for them. The pattern of play with this will be just ideally trying to get the ball to your center attacking midfielder and making runs off and around him, and even carrying forward with your center attacking midfielder. It creates tons of chances and opportunities. Players in the box, with all my formation reviews, these are all personal. I have these set a bit higher because this is a formation that I change to late in games when I am losing, which is quite frequently, and I want to get a goal back, so I put this up a little bit higher so we can get a little bit more of a offensive opportunity, I guess. So that's all the set for the defense and offensive tactics. Going on into the instructions, if I can figure out what I'm doing here. Starting with a striker, we want him to stay central. We don't want him running into the wide areas of the pitch because we have our outside midfielders, Mertens and Insigne, taking up those spaces. Get in behind. We don't want him playing as a false 9 because we do have a cam in this formation. And a target man, for me this year, hasn't seemed to work too awful well unless it is a 2-man striker setup. And mixed attack will just be a combination. We don't want these things. We just want the get in behind. So we're going to set that to get in behind. Aggressive interceptions because it does get them into the passing lanes. And it does allow us to press without technically having a press mechanic on. and stay forward as well. The center attacking midfielder will be the link between your defensive midfielders and your striker. A lot of formations that I've tried, there's a disconnect, a serious disconnect, such as in the 4-2-2 or the 4-2-4. There's a major disconnect between your defensive midfielders and your striker. So if you are like me and like to play up the center of the pitch, it's just a no-go. So these are the tactics for the striker, Kylian Mbappe. Stay central, get in behind, aggressive interceptions, and stay forward. Moving on to the cam. Come back on defense. This is not a defensive tactic I will explain. Aggressive interceptions, balanced crossing runs, a stick to position. We don't want him going really anywhere. We obviously don't want him to like drift wide. And then you can toy with the free roam. The free roam is okay, but I would rather have this be a very disciplined formation set, just myself personally. So I have them at the stick to position. The comeback on defense tactic is not a defensive tactic. It just allows them to kind of, your center attacking to kind of drop just a little bit and get in the space that is needed, so that way you can have the connection between your defensive midfielders and the rest of your attack. Because when you have it set to the basic defensive support, to me, it feels like they get too far at the pitch, and it allows a huge gap in the center, just outside of the 18-yard box for the opponent. So I will primarily run around with my center attacking midfielder and use that as my defensive, my personal defensive cover. And then obviously once they get through my midfield into the back line, I'll start controlling my center backs. So that's that, and obviously aggressive interceptions with him as well, because we want him closing down spaces and getting in the passing lanes. Moving on to Insigne and Mertens, this is the same thing for both of them. Come back on defense, like I said, with the narrow tactic set of this formation and the back line. We want our, not defensive wingers, but we want our outside midfielders, wingers, to be a bit more defensive and drop into those spaces that are being allowed by the fullbacks dropping in a bit more narrow. You're not playing like a 6 at the back. They don't drop into those positions. It's just kind of a little bit of extra cover to prevent them from just playing an open through ball into the corner flag, where they could have someone standing in for a cross or to dribble by you, whatever. So to come back on defense for both of them, balanced crossing runs. We don't want them doing too much. Getting into the box gets us exposed on the weak side, so we don't really want that. Stay on edge box for cross, I feel like isn't really necessary. There are a lot of times where I'll be running down the wing with Mertens or Insigne, and I'll whip in a cross with one of them, and the other is at the far post. So we want this set to balanced. They will obviously, the one thing I will give EA credit for, the intelligence that they give these players is pretty good. They do make runs at a pretty intelligent time for the most part. Like I said, it's the same. Free roam, because we want them running around. Say you're trying to play out of the back or you are stuck. These players will run into positions to get open and present themselves. They'll present themselves as an opportunity to pass the ball to. And normal interceptions with both of these two, because we don't want them going too crazy and committing themselves too far forward and allowing them a straight run at our fullbacks. Moving on to your defensive midfielders, this is new from the old tactic video, the 4-2-3-1 that we had. We have them both to stay back while attacking instead of having one be dropped between defenders. We want to have a little bit of press here, cover center for both of them, aggressive interceptions, cut passing lanes. This is just going to close down every opportunity that your opponent will get to progress the ball forward, and stay back while attacking instead of the drop between defenders. With one of them, we typically would have the drop between defenders. With one of them, the better defensive midfielder, maybe even less the less mobile one, in order to stop the counterattacks if they were going through. But it seems nowadays that a lot of people are trying to get possession more and more, so the drop between defenders just doesn't really do a ton. It kind of seems useless at this point. It allows them to get the ball further up the pitch. Not quicker, but it allows them to get the ball further up the pitch before they are met by a player. So we want to keep the press up with this defensive midfield set that we have. Onto our fullback, stay back while attacking, and we want this set to overlap, so when they do run around the wingers, they are running on the outside of them instead of like an inverted run where they're cutting on the inside and forcing the wingers wide. We don't want that. So we want this set to overlap. If you don't want your fullbacks running forward and attacking that much, you can just set this to mixed attack, and they won't attack as much, regardless of the stay back while attacking. Normal interceptions, we don't want them getting too crazy with it. So we can just set that to overlap and normal interceptions. Like I said, we don't want them getting overcommitted and leaving the center backs exposed. It's a lot about being precautious, not park the bus, not defensive, just precautious. And it's the same thing with the other one. We can set him to overlap as well, something I meant to change. And the center backs are both the stay back while attacking and the normal interceptions. With your goalkeeper, we want this to comes for crosses and sweeper keeper. I've explained it in my last video. If you have not already checked that out, go check it out. It was the 4-2-2. I explained why we have this tactic set for the goalkeepers, guys. That is it for the 4-2-3-1 updated Ultimate Team of the Season, the first week of June 2021 of FIFA 21 edition. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you are new, like I said, make sure you smash the subscribe button and leave a like on the video. Let me know in the comment section down below what you got last weekend and what you were playing for a formation in game. I'm curious to see what people are playing nowadays. I'm hopefully seeing a lot more 4-back formations and not the 5 at the back. Guys, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace, fellas.